Hello and welcome to the Baleroc guide from love2playwow. Start in two groups, one melee, one ranged. A couple of seconds after you engage the boss, two shards will spawn, one in melee, one in ranged. This is a very important moment in the battle that will keep repeating itself. I will insist on this one because it might sound simple, but it can cause many failed attempts. The boss says, "Beware." The DBM says, "Shards of Torment." That's when you have to look out for the faint purple lines. A bit harder to see because of the spells. The purple lines show where the shards will spawn. I'm assigned first on the shards. I get right on top of the purple lines. You will notice when the shard spawns it actually pushes me back a little bit. The player closest to the shards, me in this case, takes constant stacking damage from the shard. Right around 12, move away from the shard and the shard attacks the next closest player. The shards will always go for the closest players, and if no players are around, they will do massive red white damage that you want to avoid. The next player now takes damage and stacks from the shard just like I did, and he will keep on taking damage until the shard disappears. Now exactly the same process happens in the ranged camp. You will notice I get a new debuff, a 1 minute long debuff called Tormented. This means I can't be caught closest to the shard for another minute or I will die and screw up the rotation for the rest of the raid. This is why you should always be looking for the spawn area of the next shard and be away from it when it spawns. You will see there are two players next to the shard, one that is taking damage and the other that is next in line. The rest of us are kinda to the side. Once the first player reaches around 12 stacks, he steps away, leaving the other one to be closest, and the cycle repeats itself for the next shards. You need two people for each shard, and every 3 shards it will be your turn to go in again. That means 3 groups of 2 melees and 3 groups of 2 ranged. Easiest way to do it is to look at your debuff. When the time expires, it means you are soon to follow. The other thing you must remember is who is the player before you. You look for him when your debuff is out. See what he is doing. Worst thing you can do is move in, get some stacks and then move back out. Not only does this leave the player that was on the shard very likely to die, but when your turn comes to take stacks you are already tormented and you die. Capital rule is: stay away from the shard when you have the tormented debuff. First player on the shard, he is the one that decides when to move out. Second player on the shard just sits still close to the first player and awaits his turn. Not quite necessary, but you can choose to have 2 players as backups. One for melee, one for ranged. They should stay third in line to the shard as long as they aren't tormented. If any of the other player dies or messes up on the rotation, the shard will simply target your backup player. But enough about the shards and the DPS. Next up, healers and tanks. Only 4 targets to heal during this fight, the tanks and the players getting shard damage. Healers should never get tormented by the shards. Healers need to rotate, and this rotation among healers is very important and should be coordinated properly. A group of 2 healers, even 3, starts on the tormented DPS. That means the DPS that is taking damage from shards. This causes the respective healers to build a stacking buff called Vital Spark. More stacks of Vital Sparks, more healing done. Then the two healers switch to the tanks. When they switch to the tanks, the healers stop gaining healing buff stacks. Instead, they get a new buff, 15 seconds buff called Vital Flame. They heal the tank for a while, then they switch back to the DPS to get even more heal buff stacks. What's important here is, don't switch to the DPS while you have like 10 seconds left on the Vital Flame buff. That is the buff that you get from healing the tank. Switch when you have like 1 second left on it. This is because the Vital Flame prevents you from getting healing buff stacks from the DPS. So you need not to have it when you heal the DPS. Vital Flame gets refreshed to 15 seconds each time you don't have it and you heal the tank. Thus, the healers need to stay on the tank in multiples of 15. I believe 30 seconds is better, as there are less switches to deal with overall. Okay, so how do you do the switch? A healer from each group needs vent. When they reach 3 seconds on the Vital Flame buff, they call out the switch. DPS healers move on the tanks, tanks healer move on the DPS. You can coordinate the switches with the spawning of crystals, though I think that just makes it more complicated. All that healing buffing stacking is actually needed for the tanks, as they can reach around 1,000,000 HP towards the end of the fight. You will need 2 tanks. Have one tank get 3 stacks of Blaze of Glory. This should make him go over 250k HP, and he would become the Decimation Blade tank. He is to taunt the boss each time Decimation Blade is cast. The other tank should take the rest of the Blaze of Glory stacks. He would use a cooldown on Inferno Blade that is once a minute. He is to tank the boss for most of the encounter. An interesting fight, almost everybody in your raid needs to know what to do here, otherwise either a DPS or a tank will die. I hope you found this guide useful. Remember to follow me on Facebook if you wish to be notified when I release new videos. Thanks for watching and good luck with the encounter.